Okay, good evening, everybody. It's so nice to see all of you again. I'm really excited for tonight. We
Here,
have one of my favorite
me too.
speakers on this evening. Um, so I'm going to read, we're doing step 11 tonight. And, kind of when I introduce Alan, almost by definition, I have to read step 11 because it's just you'll understand once we get busy here. But step 11 reads, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. So obviously that's in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And, earlier in the book, it gives us some directions on page 63, stating that God provides what we need if we stay close to him and do his work well, which is one of my favorite statements in the big book. And then about 20 pages after that, it tells us that our main purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and our fellows. And, and I say all this because I learned so much of these principles regarding step 11 and trying to live my life in a spiritual and helpful way with tolerance and love and I have tried to emulate our speaker tonight, Alan King. Alan is I've got a lot of great mentors here in Pennsylvania. But Alan has been one of my go-tos when I'm stuck on something, and he always drops some spiritual dime on me, and I, and I, and I, and that invariably always sticks with me. So I don't want to take up any more time tonight. Alan, thank you so much for the lessons you've taught me. Thank you for being with us this evening, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Oh, thank you. So, geez, got bright all of a sudden. Is that my lighting or is that what happened? I don't know.
You're good.
Oh, good. Okay. So, my name is Alan. I'm an alcoholic, and I am Caron alumni. I've been through Caron a couple of times. I went through in 91, 92, and I went through. They had like an equine therapy thing back in the late 90s. I went through it at one point. I don't know if anyone recalls that, but that was pretty interesting. I got to work with a horse, which was new for me. I had never dealt with any animal like that. So when I think about this 11th step, well, and I'm sober since Valentine's Day 1992. So I just had 33 years, which I didn't think I was going to be sober that long. I really never did. I never thought I was going to be alive that long, to tell you the truth. Um, but in any case, when I look at this step, you know, I teach for a living. I teach and I always like to talk about the why before I talk about the how. It's like, why would I do this? Why would I take this action? And that's really important because if I know what the why is, then I'll figure out how. It's like I gotta, but why do I do it? And it says in the book, it says it says we can have this unshakable foundation through this direct link with self-examination, meditation, and prayer. And so what happens is that I kind of can get free, like for a length of time after I reveal myself to another human being, and I ask for help in having my defects taken away, and then this brings me into this place where um, I do the maintenance steps and I do the prayer meditation. Now, I would never say to anybody who's new, you don't pray and you don't pray, you don't meditate until you get to the 11th step. I would never say that. I think it's something that really helped me in the beginning was prayer and meditation, but I also believe it became much more effective when I got to that step, when I got to it having done the previous steps. So why do I do it? And the reason I do it is because I want this recovery sufficient to recover from alcoholism. And, what is my thought life like? I have to remember, like even today, like what my thought life was like when I got here. So I remember saying, telling people that I was doing these steps, you know, when they were kind of more like a theory, they were more like a theory, like I believed I was doing them. Uh, but but I remember I was sober for probably 3 or 4 months, and a bunch of guys, they were going to this meeting to the west in Hershey, and there was going to be a meditation meeting. And I remember going to that meeting, and I was like, yeah, I can meditate like everybody else. And I was not sober for very long. And we went to this meditation meeting, and they were going to turn off the lights and light some candles for 10 minutes. And I sat there for those 10 minutes. And I mean, I was like, doesn't everyone know that it's more than 10 minutes? You know, I was totally and completely out of my mind because I really believed I thought that something had gone wrong with the clock. Why doesn't somebody speak up? I was ready to speak up, and then all of a sudden it was over, like, but I had not ever had to encounter my own demons quite like that before. My whole life, I had been running away from that experience of being by myself alone in a room, and quiet. I had run away from that for so long. You know, when it says in this step, we saw through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact. The why is that I would like to be more comfortable in my own skin. That's what I really want. And I need and I can view the world differently. I could see the world differently. It's a much less scary place today than it used to be. This step talks about the power to carry it out and knowledge of God's will. And for me, that's like I like to think of that as a rudder in a sail. I need to have some sort of some sort of guidance about which direction to take in all of my affairs, but also some sort of propulsion. I've always been kind of like flopping around in the sea at the whims of the currents, and I would often react the same way to any sort of input. Like, I didn't. It wasn't until I've been sober for a while, and I realized how people would often they would kind of have fun with me. They would say something knowing that I would always respond the same way. You know, I didn't even know that. I had no idea of that. I was like, I was kind of like, I was like a party favor. They would say something and it's like, and I just didn't have a choice. I had to react. I was always doing the same dance over and over again because I was reacting. And what the 10th and what the 11th step does for me today is it enables me to respond rather than to react. And to live my life more fully and to be in the moment and to be, aware and to be awake, because left to my own device without the 11th step, what I end up in something sometimes people call it like the default mode, where all I'm doing is thinking. And I'm thinking and I'm thinking and I'm thinking and I'm thinking circularly. So, one thought is going to the next thought, it's going to the next thought. And it's always the same order of thoughts from this thought to that thought to that thought. And what the 11th step does is it enables me to have some sort of space between my thoughts. And that's very much about freedom. It's really about being free from that oppression, because like what happens is that I can get into this mode where I'm just thinking. And when I'm in that place, it gets I lose time, and I'm not capable of real relationships. I like to think of it very much like a virus on a computer. You know how you get the virus on the computer, and the computer is just it's just uh it's just doing all these routines, and it's not able to fulfill any real work, because it's completely being consumed by this like a virus on the computer. And that's how I can be. And when I get into that default mode where, maybe it's anger or maybe whatever it is, it's taking me away from life. So you know, the other thing that the 11th step gives me is it enables me from doing those things I don't want to do, and enables me to keep from saying those things I don't want to say. Because I really thought like my actions were dictated by you. It's like I had to respond to you, and whether that was in thoughts and actions. So I could be free today, and I could respond differently every time. I could respond, uh, you know, from my true self rather than, from this preconditioned stuff that came before. So this changes the way I react to life. It changes the way I react to life, and I didn't even know how crazy I had been. I had no, I didn't when I got here. I'm so glad that I didn't know, uh, quite how crazy I had been. Uh, I didn't know, uh, and you don't know. One of the things that really helps when I'm working a program is to journal. Because when I journal and I write down those things that I feel in the way that I perceive life, I can. Are we okay?
I think we're good, Alan. We had to
Okay.
mute some
Yeah,
people.
that's
Go
all right.
ahead.
It's a technical issue. Sometimes it happens. So where I was though, I was talking um, about how I respond to life, and how I can respond from my true self today, rather than responding from programming. So from preconditioning. So this is it's really changed how I react to life. It also changes as I walk through life how I perceive, and what I found is, I used to always judge quite a bit. Well, more than quite a bit. I judged a lot, and I do not judge as I once judged. Like a lot of it now, I kind of like I understand, and I try to meet people where they are. And I could be much more tolerant of where people are today. And a lot of that has come only from, you know, uh, exercising prayer and meditation. So how do I pray and meditate today? Well, in the morning, I get up, I have my little routine, but I have a time and a place. And it's so important for me to have a time and a place. So for me, it's this red chair, and it's in my bedroom. And after getting up in the morning, it's really essentially it's the first thing I do. And what I do is I sit down, I put a little blanket over my legs, and I go deep. And it's a minimum of 10 to 20 minutes. It really depends. Sometimes I just know that I'm done. But the main thing is that I have this time and a place where I go. And sometimes I can get really, really quiet, and things are really quiet within my mind. And I do, for those interested, sometimes I do, like I'll go back and forth. Sometimes I do a contemplative prayer where I'm praying on a verse, And sometimes I'll do a mantra, and other times sometimes I'll do all three, and sometimes I'll really focus on my breath, because there's a lot of wisdom within the body and them, and just experiencing my own breath can often be a route to how I get to where I want to go. What I get from that is some sort of quiet and some sort of peace, and very often there will be some inspiration that comes, never when I'm actually doing this, but later on. Inspiration for me occurs during really, really ordinary moments. It's like stepping from the shower, or just putting on my clothes, or uh, you know, uh, pouring coffee or whatever, and that's where inspiration comes. And I do all of this stuff very mindfully. So that's what my experience is with prayer and meditation. It's very important for me to, I don't like, I don't believe in like a methodical, where I need to learn this verse, and that verse, and another verse, and if I know stuff, that doesn't make me more spiritual, because that's not, knowing things, I can know things and still have horrible behavior, So for me, what I get is, I want to get to that quiet. I want to have an experience. It's not about knowledge. It's not about like learning algebra or something like that. For me, it's the actual experience, and that's what provides me with some sort of grace. And that's what I really want, is grace. When I got here, I wanted justice. I had been a police officer, and I wanted justice. And I'm so glad I didn't get it. What I have today is some sort of grace. So I don't know. I got here. I don't know why I'm still here after 33 years, but I think some of it has to do with the fact that I get quiet. I really do believe that. So I've had some sort of personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism. That's what it says in the spiritual experience. That's the why. That's the why. If you know the why, you can figure out the how. And I love the fact that I don't have to make amends nearly as often. I don't do the things I don't want to do, and I don't say the things I don't want to say as often. And that's the best amends of all. The best amends of all are the ones I don't have to make. And it's restraint of tongue and pen. Better yet, tongue, pen, and send. You know what I'm talking about. Like when you send one of those nasty grams or something like that. I don't even put any name in the to anymore. I leave that for the end, because I don't want to just hit that send like compulsively, So that's the 11th step for me. The 11th step, the big deliverable is the relationships I have today that are something beyond my wildest dream. They're nothing I could have conceived of when I got here. The way that I feel about people, the way I can go through life and not constantly be apologetic about my behavior. It was almost like I can cut to the chase. I'm Alan, and I'm sorry, but I'm glad to be a member today. And thank you for asking me to talk on the 11th step.